Shadow of the Colossus as a concept has a lot going for it. Fumito Ueda's idea of having a young adventurer take down massive beasts is a cool idea on paper because of all the odds stacked against you as a player. Simply put, it's epic as hell. This idea is further pushed with the somewhat clunky, hard to maneuver controls because while they may be a little annoying to deal with, they make scaling the massive beasts a real challenge and demand careful platforming and stamina management to see success. But today we aren't discussing the controls or physics of this masterful piece of art, but actually the incredible atmosphere and world building that makes Shadow of the Colossus stand tall amongst other PS2 era titles and makes it remain an unforgettable experience to this day. While the game can seem barren of things to do other than just fighting bosses, the massive world available to explore in the sealed-off lands of Shadow of the Colossus offer an incredible sense of scale, isolation, and wonder. Team Ico's 3 games all have an incredible way of displaying landmarks and architecture, and the world of Shadow of the Colossus is no exception, as the locales from this game remain embedded in my mind as if they were real places I've visited before. When we first see our hero cross the long bridge to the shrine on his horse, we get a good snippet of the size of the world we'll be exploring. The main character, Wander, brings a girl named Mono to the altar of the shrine in hopes of resurrecting her. A mysterious spirit tells you to defeat the bosses that roam that land using the sword in exchange for her life to be restored. At wit's end and desperate for her life, Wander agrees. This shrine acts as the central hub you'll always be returning to after defeating each Colossus. The game plays out like a boss rush gauntlet, and the goal is simple: destroy 16 Colossi in the hopes to resurrect the sacrificed girl. We're not given much context on who this girl is, but I always assumed she was his lover. Moments later, you'll set out on your horse and are given full access to the entire map of the game. Giving the player this level of freedom in terms of where they're allowed to explore right off the bat is something rarely seen in other games. However, I feel this is an effective move in furthering the sense of isolation and scale of the world. There is fruit you can shoot off of trees and increase your health, and lizards you can kill with your sword and collect their tails to increase stamina. It's really on your way to each Colossus that you'll get a further appreciation for the world, as you'll be scaling rubbled buildings and cliffs, crossing dense forests and open plains, and traveling to the Colossus domains where they reside to defeat them rather than having the beasts seek you out on their own. In fact, just finding the next Colossus to defeat is 1/3 of a very simple formula that'll be repeated 16 times throughout the playthrough. Find the boss, figure out the key to getting it to reveal its weak points, and stabbing it with your sword inside weak points until it's defeated. You'll need to lift your sword to the skies to reveal the general location of the next Colossus, but figuring out exactly where to go is on you. When I first played the game, I thought, why would the developers take so much time to create such a vast world with foliage, animals, and other landmarks if you'd only see these areas for a few minutes while passing through on your way to each boss? But it's actually a huge part of why I hold the atmosphere of this game in such high regards. It's actually through these traversals that I've developed a further appreciation for the emotions and feelings that the developers intended. The sky is always cloudy and stormy, further reminding you as the player of the harshness of the world, and the dire straits the main character finds himself in. There is a lack of music while traversing, further immersing you in the sights and sounds of the world as your horse gallops along. The music is ominous and foreboding when a new Colossus is revealed, and it isn't until you start scaling the beast that the music really picks up to something more intense, frantic, and epic. Let's face it, the actual controls and physics of the game can be a bit janky. The ragdoll-like physics of the main character are extremely sensitive, and any slight movement of a boss can have the player falling and sliding all over the place while trying to scale it. While this is far from perfect, I still sort of appreciate what the developers were going for with the original release, making the player feel very defenseless and unlikely to prevail by making the size of the beast reflect just how easily a human would be thrown around in real life. I just wish the physics were a bit more fluid and the jump felt a little less floaty and delayed. Furthermore, your horse aggro doesn't always respond to more precise or quick movements with the joystick and builds up momentum while trying to speed up, making it difficult to come to a sudden stop or change directions on a dime. Still, while there may be a few annoying instances of this, they're never what I remember from each playthrough of the game. All of the faults with this game I am always willing to overlook because of just how satisfying it is to land the final blow on each Colossus. Getting to each boss may feel like a bit of a chore, especially if you make a wrong turn and realize you've been going the wrong way. But when you first discover each Colossus and then eventually discover how to defeat them, you feel a true sense of accomplishment you'll rarely feel in other games, and realize it was completely worth it. Shadow of the Colossus, as mentioned earlier, has a massive, visually impressive world, but very little to actually do in it. While it does an excellent job of providing vast locations for you to explore, the world itself really only acts as a place to house each of the massive beasts across different areas. It's easy to ignore the world and go straight to each boss as quickly as possible, but it's actually through your journey to the home of each beast that the game really starts to leave a lasting impact. Each Colossus domain on the map feels distinct and unique. Many of them reside near or under old cobblestone and brick buildings, alluding to civilizations long gone. I remember each of these bosses' domains as they are all distinct in their own way, and the environment often plays a crucial role in defeating them. There's an old Colosseum where a fire-spitting lizard Colossus now resides, a sandpit in a cave where a giant Alaskan bullworm chases you, and a dark dungeon where a Colossus with a long-shaggy beard lives. The music perfectly accompanies each of these locations and boss fights as composer Kow Otani arranged some incredibly epic and beautiful tracks, further adding to the atmosphere. The different types of Colossi are varied in their design, adding to the unknown sense of wonder of what a Colossus can even be on the first playthrough. There's an electric sea serpent that resides underwater, requiring you to submerge yourself in the water for it to approach you, a bird that requires you to get its attention by shooting it with your bow and latching onto its wings when it swoops down to get you. There's a giant turtle-like Colossus that needs to be flipped over from the geysers in the ground for you to get to its weak point, and many others. My favorite is this super tall Colossus named Gaius that has a giant pillar for an arm. Not only is this boss badass looking, but the way of defeating it is creative and clever and truly rewarding to figure out. By the end of the game, it's clear that Shadow of the Colossus is a true marvel of video game design. Not only is the concept extremely epic and appealing, but the execution is solid and the world building is top notch. Even though the Colossi themselves are what I usually remember so fondly about the game, it was on my most recent playthrough on the PS4 version that I took a real appreciation for the world created, and how that fostered a real sense of isolation and worry for the main player, and intimidation and anticipation for the large task ahead of you. Shadow of the Colossus is one of the most invigorating, engaging, and genuinely satisfying games to complete due to the nail-biting gameplay, compelling story, and of course with its beautifully and masterfully designed world and atmosphere. It's not only one of the most visually impressive looking worlds I've ever seen, especially with the PS4 remake, but one that makes me truly feel the anguish, anxiety, and fear of the main character Wander through its somber music, captivating cutscenes, cinematic camera angles, and massive world. It's when you push through despite the long journey ahead, despite the clunky controls and awkward climbing, and despite the straightforward, repetitive three-part goal of defeating bosses over and over again, because when you finally learn the key to defeating a Colossus and that epic music kicks in, you realize it all culminated to an unforgettable experience, and landing that final blow will have you pump your fist with victory every time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps get my ass into gear and keep making more videos. I would truly appreciate it.